Hello and welcome to week 1 of the Changing Tides Crochet Along. I'm Eleonora, the designer behind Coastal Crochet, and all the information and details about this blanket crochet along can be found over on my blog. The links are in the description below. So there won't be a tutorial for every week. This is week 1, and just by going through the first few rounds, I think you'll be well on your way to making this blanket. It is a written pattern and the details, like I said, are over on my blog. So what you see here is the end of round 1, and it's just like a traditional granny square. So we have 12 stitches in total. That's 4 groups of 3 treble, that's US double crochet stitches, and then we have the 4 corner chain spaces made up of 2 chain. And throughout this blanket we are going to be turning the work on each round. So at the end of round 1 we're turning the work, and now at the start of round 2 we are making 3 chain, and this counts as the first stitch of this next round. You may want to put a stitch marker in that very top chain, because that is the chain that we will be slip stitching into at the end of the round to join and close the round. So we're on round 2, and the first instruction is 2 treble, 2 chain, 2 treble in the corner chain space, which is this corner chain space next to the stitch. And I work in UK crochet terms, although the pattern is available in US terms as well, and a UK treble stitch is a US double crochet. So that's 2 treble, 2 chain and 2 treble, all in that corner chain space. And now the pattern says to work 1 treble, that's a US double crochet, in each of the next 3 stitches. And whenever you're sort of working a square like this, just make sure that you're getting that first stitch after the corner chain space, and it's quite clear to see it here. So it's 1 treble, that's a US double crochet, in each of the next 3 stitches. That's 1, that's 2, and then that's 3. And now we're repeating that 2 more times by doing 2 treble, 2 chain, 2 treble in this corner chain space, the treble in each of the next 3 stitches, and repeat on this side. So we've repeated that 2 times, and now we're in our last corner chain space doing 2 treble, US double crochet, 2 chain and 2 treble, all in that corner chain space. And on this final side of our square we can now see we have 2 stitches left, 1, 2, because remember that first 3 chain that we made, that counted as the first stitch of the round. So we're just left with 2 on this side. So 1 treble in the next 2 stitches, that's 1, and this is 2. And throughout this blanket we are going to be joining each round with a slip stitch, and it's important to know which chain to insert the hook into, and it will be specified throughout the pattern. And at the end of round 2 it says to slip stitch to the top of the first 3 chain. Because this is a treble stitch, we're going into that very top one, so it's 1, 2, and there's 3, the 3rd chain, and I tend to go under both strands of the chain when joining to give it a nice neat and tight finish. So slip stitch into that chain, the top of the 3 chain, and you've closed off the round. And now we are going to fasten off this colour, so I just give the yarn a little snip and then just pull through. And that is now fastened off, and we have the end of round 2. And don't forget, we turn. So we turn the work, and now we're ready to start round 3, where we'll be joining a new colour. And we'll be joining the colour into the chain space, and it can be in any chain space, and actually it's quite good to vary and rotate which chain spaces you join into, just to give the blanket the best chance of being as straight as possible. So we join yarn B to any corner chain space, so just insert your hook, get the next colour, just draw it through like so, and then we make 3 chain. 1, 2, 3, and don't forget that counts as the first stitch of this next round. And the instructions now say do 1 treble, 2 chain, and then 2 treble, all in this same corner chain space. So there's 1 treble, US double crochet, 2 chain, and then 2 more treble into this same corner chain space. And there we go. And now it's 1 treble in the next 7 stitches. Remember to get that first stitch off this side. And it might be an idea as well now just to crochet around that yarn. Just saves a lot of crocheting or weaving in of the ends at the end of the blanket. So now it's 1 treble in each of the next 7 stitches. That's 1, 2, 6, and 7. And there you can see getting that nice straight edge. And now we are doing 2 treble, 2 chain, 2 treble in that corner chain space, 1 treble in those 7 stitches, then this corner chain space right round back to the beginning. So we're just on our last side now, on this last run of 7 treble stitches. And make sure that you get the last stitch of each side. So we've done 7 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're now slip stitching to the top of that first 3 chain again from the beginning. So you can see it's 1, 2, 3, and I tend to go, as I said before, under the 2 strands. 1, 2, slip stitch, and that is the end of round 3. It's a really good idea to keep counting, just to make sure that all the sides are even and you haven't lost any stitches along the way. And at the end of this round we should have 11 stitches on each side, because obviously we did our 7 plus the 2 in each corner chain space. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11. And just count, you know, at the end of each round, just to make sure you've got the right stitch count. So we are turning our work again. And now at the start of round 4, we're just doing 2 chain. That's because this round is going to be made up of half treble stitches. And a big confusion for beginner crochet is which stitch is the next one, or the first one, or the right one to crochet into. And I really want to show you this because it's just really important and just helps with any confusion. So we've just done 2 chain, and because this now counts as the first half treble stitch of this round, we're not going to go into the stitch that's at the base of that chain. So you can see here, there's the chain, and this is the stitch where that chain is coming out of. So we don't crochet into there, we crochet into the next one, which is this one here. So not the stitch at the base of the chain, but the next one. So when the instructions say 1 half treble in the next 9 stitches, we start in the next stitch along, which is this one here. And a half treble is a half double crochet in US terms. So 1 half treble in each of the next 9 stitches. And a half treble is just pulling through all the loops on the hook in one go. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, and then our last stitch on that side, 9, and then we're doing 2 half treble, 2 chain, 2 half treble in the corner chain space, and then 1 half treble in the 11 stitches along here, and carry on each side. So we're at our final corner chain space, and we're doing 2 half treble, US half double crochet, 2 chain and 2 half treble, all in that same corner chain space. And now we'll have one more stitch to crochet into at the start of this next side, or the last side, and there is that final stitch. So it's 1 half treble in the final stitch, and then remember that first 2 chain that we made at the start of the round counted as the first stitch, so we're going into the top of that first 2 chain, so it's 1, 2, and I go under both strands, 1, 2, there we go, and slip stitch to close the round. And that is now the end of round 4. We turn the work, and now because we've just done a round of half treble or half double crochet stitches in the US are quite unique in that they actually have 3 strands. So you can see you've got 2 strands which look like traditional V's going along the top, but you also have these little front strands, and it's really important in this next round, round 5, to make sure that we're just crocheting into the sort of top 2 strands and leaving this front loop exposed, because we're going to be crocheting into that on round 6. So we start this next round with 4 chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is going to count as 1 treble stitch and 1 chain. So later on when we close this round, we're going to be crocheting into the 3rd chain of this first 4 chains. So you might want to put a stitch marker into that chain. And we're now going to be missing the first stitch. So again, it's not the stitch at the base of this starting chain, it's the next one along. So not the one at the base, the next one along. We're missing that stitch, and then 1 treble in the next stitch. So not the one at the base, missing the first stitch, 1 treble, US double crochet into that stitch there. And then we're going to do 1 chain, miss 1 stitch. Now when you've done a round of half treble on these squares, it's not always easy to see, but there is a stitch there. That's the last stitch of this side. So we're missing that stitch, and we are going straight in to do 2 treble, 2 chain rather, and 2 treble, all in the same corner chain space. And now we're continuing with 1 chain, miss 1 stitch, so that's this one here, 1 treble in the next stitch, and just going under those top 2 strands as normal, just making sure that that front loop, that unique feature of a half treble US half double crochet stitch, is left exposed. So miss 1 stitch, 1 treble in the next stitch, and we do this all the way along each side. 1 chain, miss 1 stitch, 1 treble in the next stitch, all the way along, and then work the corner chain spaces as before with 2 treble, 2 chain and 2 treble. We're going to go right round. So we're just on the very last side now. So 1 chain, miss 1 stitch, 1 treble in the next stitch, 1 chain, miss 1 stitch, 1 treble in the next stitch, 1 more time, and then when you're at the end of the round, we're making 1 chain, missing that very last stitch. And remember, our starting chain was 4 chain, and that counted as 1 treble plus 1 chain. So it's really important to go into the 3rd chain of those first 4 chains. So 1, 2, 3, because that 4th chain counts as the sort of little one chain going across. So slip stitch to the 3rd chain from that first 4 chain. And that is the end of round 5. And what we're doing at the end of round 5 is we are not fastening off, but we're removing the hook. Just place a stitch marker into the loop so it doesn't unravel. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to be crocheting into these left sort of exposed strands of the half treble stitches. And I'll show you how to do that in the next tutorial. But I hope this has really got you on the way of sort of constructing the blanket. It's a square, so there's always going to be corner chain spaces, and whenever we change colour we'll be joining the colour in those corner chain spaces. We're turning at the end of each round, so continuously turning, and just remember to really get that last stitch of each side at the end of each side when you're, especially with the half treble stitches. So I hope that's really helped and got you on the way. Like I said, all the instructions, the written pattern will be over on my blog. Thank you for watching.